Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am really excited to say that I now am a proud owner of an iPad Pro, which I will admit was terrifying to buy. It's a massive investment. It's something I've been thinking about for literally years, and I have just got to the point with my business now where I thought it'd be great to get one because it will be able to speed up so many processes, where at the moment I'm having to do a lot of work on pen and paper and then scan it in and then touch it up digitally before I can do any printing. So I figured that this would be a great time saver. Now, I've only had this like a week, so I am no expert. However, I've already had so much fun with this and played around quite a lot. And recently I posted over on my Instagram a little galaxy time lapse. I've had quite a few people ask me how I actually created that galaxy, because with the time lapse on Procreate you can't actually see the buttons that I'm pressing or what brush I'm using. It just kind of quickly goes through what I've created. So today I'm going to show you what brush I used to create the galaxy, and we'll do some cool lettering on top. And if you've got an iPad Pro with Procreate, you can do this along with me, as it's all going to be in real time, so we can work along this together. If you do create your own galaxy, then be sure to tag me over on Instagram. It's @blinklettering. I'd absolutely love to see what you guys create. Right, let's get started. So the canvas I've chosen is just the standard square, just because if I want to post it into Instagram, it's already at the right shape. And I'm just going to zoom out a tiny bit so we can see all of the edges. Well, this plant's going to be a little bit on the way. Let's move you over there. To start, we want to create a nice galaxy background. And now I've done quite a few galaxies using watercolor before, so when I was thinking how could I do this on an iPad, I figured going to use a watercolor brush would be great. By the way, all of the brushes that I'm using today are just the standard brushes that you can find on Procreate. I haven't actually got around to downloading any yet, but also I think it could be quite overwhelming just with the brushes that are already there, so I just want to show you what you can create with the existing brushes. So we're going into artistic and then just selecting this watercolor brush right at the bottom. Now, I don't really want to do any changes to it. I'm pretty happy with how the default is for this. Today I'm going to go for a nice green middle, I reckon. So the one on my Instagram, it had like a kind of purple nebula, like a pinky purple nebula, but I'm going to do kind of green space cloud. So I've just selected this quite bright green, and I'm just going to go across the middle and making it a bit wider. When we get to the middle, you can put varying pressure on. It doesn't really matter what pressure you're doing. It doesn't need to be too neat either. You can see I've just gone back in to add a bit more pressure. So now we probably want a bit of a darker green just to fade it out. So I'm just going back into my colour and going to about here, I reckon. And I'm just gonna pop little bits around the edge. And now we want to get more into our spacey colours, so looking for like quite a dark blue. You can just kind of colour pick as you go. There's not really a right or wrong. So as you can see, I've gone quite messy with this. And now I just want to go in for black. We're going to be layering up these colours, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit messy at the moment. I mean, right now that does not look like a galaxy, but we're going to be blending these and just having a little play until we get the right consistency. So the next tool we want is the smudge tool, which is this little finger here, and you can select different brushes. So the brush that I'm going to go in for is down in water, and then it's this wash tool. So basically it kind of wets where your Apple Pencil is and it smudges that colour around. So if we click on this, again, I'm pretty happy with how the defaults are, and we're just going to go in and start smudging it. So can you see it's kind of blending it out, and if I take this light green into the dark blue, it starts taking the green through. So you want to kind of jump between the colours and really blend them out. We want to keep it quite bright in the middle, but we want to bring a lot of this dark colour to the inside. So I'm kind of working from the middle and then going to the outside and just bringing it through a little bit. Now if I go a bit too far, you can either undo, and that's by tapping 2 fingers on the screen, or if I just go a tiny bit too far, I can just bring out some of the colour that's around it, and it still keeps some of the black in, which I quite like. At the end of the day, space is pretty dark, so our aim is to overall have this as quite a black image with a bit of colour coming through. So as you can see, we've started getting it nice and blended. Now I just want to start building up the colour a bit more. So I'm just going to go back to my brush. We've still got it on black, and I'm just going to really add some more black. Again, I'm just kind of varying the pressure on and off, nothing too precise. And I'm not necessarily selecting exactly the same colours as last time. I just kind of want to build up some quite random colours. So now I'm going back over to my smudge tool, and it's still on the wash brush. And I'm just going to pull the black out a little bit first. And I'm just going to pull this green out a bit more. We don't want too much of it. So we've got quite a nice background layer going on now. I'm just going to blend up this tiny bit down here. Cool, so we've got a nice background layer here. Now what I'm going to do next is add some stars in. The great thing about Procreate is that you can have lots of different layers. So at the moment we've been working on layer 1. You can rename this, so I can call it space. And I'm going to add another layer, and I'll rename this and call it stars. So now we've got this layer selected, and it just means that if I add anything onto this layer, and then I hide the layer, it's separate. So if you decide you don't really like the stars you've done, you can actually delete that whole layer, which is there, and you're not affecting the background that you've already created. So let's just create that again. Now for the stars, I'm going to be using this monoline brush, so you can find that in calligraphy and then monoline. And we're just going to go for a nice bright white for the stars. I like to start off doing a few larger stars, so I'm just changing the brush size to about 50%. Ooh. So I just undid there because the dot went a bit haywire. So we've got one or a few larger stars, and I'm just going to bring it down to about 20%. I'm just going to start adding in a few smaller stars. Now you want this to be as random as possible, but go for a few more stars towards the outside of the image. This is partly because of this bright green, you wouldn't see as many stars anyway, but also we're going to focus this area for a lot of our lettering. I'm just going to go for a few even smaller stars. I'm going to really bring it down to about 2%. Just undoing that one because I felt like the star wasn't just a simple dot. One thing I also like to add in is a few shooting stars. I'm just going to add an extra layer for this because they might not be in the right position for the lettering, but I just want to do them now while we're on the stars. For this, I'm actually going to change the brush. So if we go into inking and then click on technical pen, I like this one just because, as you can see, it has a bit of pressure to it. So if I press light or hard to light, it just changes the width of the pen a little bit. Just undo that. So for a shooting star, what I'm going to do is just press and flick. I didn't quite like how that turned out, so sometimes what's worth doing is actually turning the iPad and then you can get a better flick. So I'm just press and flick. So that feels a little bit more natural now. And then I'm going to do another one down here. So those feel a little bit more natural, and we've finished all our stars. We've just got some space to add some lettering. So what should we letter today? So I think I'm going to keep the style of this lettering actually quite simple. So if you're not too confident with calligraphy, then it doesn't matter too much. It will be kind of using your own handwriting. Now, first things first, let's create a new layer. And I'm just going to call this text. And then the brush I'm going to use is this monoline brush, just because we're not going to go too crazy with the actual lettering side, but we're going to style it up with some decorative elements afterwards. So I'm just changing the brush size to about 60, and let's go a bit higher than that, 77, and I'm just going to write the word stars. Now it's kind of gone a little bit wobbly around the text, and I think that's because there isn't that much streamline on it. So if I just go here, and the streamline is quite low, so if I bring that up, basically streamline snaps your text a little bit better, so when you're like wobbling, it doesn't wobble it as much. So let's start again. Sometimes it's good to just tilt your canvas a little bit just to make it a bit easier to write. So I've just kept it quite simple, it's all uppercase. You can just do this in your own handwriting, it's nothing too complicated, but we're just gonna make the text pop a little bit. Firstly, I just want to move this because it's not quite centered. So let's just tap this arrow up here and it brings up a bounding box and you can now move it around. So I just want to move it to the center a bit. I think I'm just gonna rotate it ever so slightly too. So I'm happy with that now. I'm just going to press the arrow off to get rid of it. And what I want to do is firstly add a little bit of shadow to this text just to make it pop out of the space a little bit. And then we're going to add a few little dots just to jazz up the text. So the easiest way to add a shadow is, let's rename this to text. Is if we duplicate this, if you just slide this layer along, it comes up with the option saying duplicate. So now we've got 2 layers of text. So if I select the bottom one and just move it, you can see it's adding this extra layer, it's just moving to the side. Now I want to make this a different colour just so it doesn't blend in with the text too much. So the quickest way of doing that is, let's firstly select the colour we want. Let's go for like a medium grey colour. Let's go back to our layers, and if you tap on the layer, firstly you want to click on Alpha Lock. What you can see here is that it's actually made the background of this transparent. So if we were to now fill it in, it would only fill in the actual letters, it wouldn't affect the whole layer. So we can now click fill layer, and as you can see it's changed it. Now if we just go back a sec, I'll show you what happens if we don't have Alpha Lock on. So I haven't got Alpha Lock on. If I click fill layer, can you see it's just filled the whole layer? It's not just filled the text area, and that's why Alpha Lock is really good and important for if you want to fill any layers. So Alpha Lock, and then tap again and click fill layer. So it's just filling it with this colour we've already added on. Now I just want to move this around a little bit more. I don't want too much of a shadow, just a tiny bit. And I've just had this so it's moving down a little bit and to the right, and that just means that our light source is coming from around here. But the bonus of doing this duplicate layers is you don't need to worry too much the light source. You can just move it yourself and it will work it out for you. So you can kind of see when I'm moving around like that how the light source would be changing. So I'm pretty happy with the position of that now. So I'm just going to tick off there. And then what I want to do is just add some little detail into these letters. So I'm going to add another layer, and we want this to be right at the top. So I'm just tapping the top layer and then adding new, and I'm just going to rename it decoration. Now what I think I'm going to do is a series of dots all the way along all of these letters, and I think I want to match it to this green. So what you can do to select that colour is if you just hold your finger, you can see this circles come up and it's now selecting that green colour, and up here it will have changed. So what we could do is we could go in, zoom in with our monoline at quite small, and literally just sit here and dot it through. But as you can see from me doing this, is some of the dots, but as you can see, I'm a bit impatient. Some of these dots are a bit blobby, they're not even, they're not necessarily nice and smooth around this letter. So one way you can make it a bit more even is actually changing this brush so it becomes a dotted line. So if we just tap on your brush tool up here, and to get into this setting you just tap on the brush again, and now we have all the properties. So spacing actually changes it, and as we go all the way up you can see it's now become a dotted line. So we can bring that all the way to the top. And now if I draw, can you see it's creating a dotted line, and the dots are always at an even space apart. So we've got a nice little dotted line all the way around. I did that quite quickly just so I could show you guys what it looked like. I'm just going to go back and do it again because I'm not really happy with how it goes quite close to the edge here. So you do need to be quite controlled doing this. And I'm going to go quite up close just so it's a bit easier to control. I'm just going to start that again so it starts a bit further down. And now you should have some nice dotted lines all the way through your text. So adding these little decorative elements in the shadow just makes the text stand out a little bit more and sits really nicely on top of all of this galaxy background. Now just looking at this, I feel like this whole text is a little bit off center still. So what I'm going to do is rename decoration, and I'm going to group all of the text layers, just hovering it over, holding down and hovering just to make sure they're all in order. And now we can select group, and we can select the arrow at the top, and it will actually move this whole group. So now I can just position it in a way I'm slightly more happy. And there we go. We have a beautiful galaxy background with some quite basic hand lettering on top, but it just brings it out a little bit more. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'd absolutely love to see what you guys create, so make sure you tag me on Instagram if you share it on Instagram. For anyone interested in buying an iPad Pro and just wondering what model that I have here, I've got the iPad Pro 11-inch from 2018, and I went for the 256 gig memory. The reason I went for that memory storage is I plan on doing a lot of video filming on this iPad, so it's really important for me to have a lot of space. But for other people who may just be using it for little bits here and there and a bit more of a hobby on Procreate, the smaller memory size might be a bit better for you. But I absolutely love this. It's just been such a time saver for me, and it's really addictive, like super addictive. Like I said, I've only had this for a week, so if there's anything I've done and you think, oh, actually there's a way better way of doing that, then let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to learn and develop my skills, but I also hope this helped some of you guys out who may be feeling a bit daunted by Procreate and you don't want to go ahead and download loads of brushes yet, but you still want to create something and see what you can do. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope I see you soon. If you enjoyed watching it, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you like seeing videos from me, then I hope you'll hit that red subscribe button somewhere. It'd be great to have more of you guys on board. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and see you soon. Bye!